Hey guys, Pastor Roy here, and we're at Grove Kids Children's Church, and I'm so glad you're back. You know, it's been a long couple of months, hasn't it? And we've been stuck at home. We haven't been able to be here in Children's Church, but sooner or later we'll get to be back, and I'm looking forward to that day. Well, we're going to take today, and we're going to recap everything we've gone over for the past month. This is our very last lesson on honesty, and we've spent a whole month on it. And we've talked about Jacob and Esau, and we've talked about Adam and Eve, and we talked about Achan, and we talked about Peter. All these different people in the Bible that learned what honesty is. So we're going to take just a few minutes, and we're just going to kind of recap everything. So bear with us. Get a seat. Maybe if you need to go potty right now, now's a good time to go. So we're going to hold on just a second. 1, 2, 3, go potty. Oops! Hope you got potty real quick, because that was all we had. I'm going to get my friend out of the suitcase. I got a new friend with us today. His name is Googly. Now, Googly has a little bit of a speech impediment, so maybe you can understand it, maybe you can't. Sometimes I can't understand it. I'm going to get him out, and we're going to go over our memory verse right quick. While I'm getting him out, Miss Kim's with me again, and she's going to come up, and we're going to go over our memory verse. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Guys.
All right, come on. Hey guys, this is Googly. Googly, say hi to everybody.
Everybody say hi back.
Did you understand him? I didn't quite understand him. Well, all right. So anyway, Googly, I want you to help me tell the boys and girls the memory verse. Can you do that? You know the memory verse? Oh, I'm not sure that he knows the memory verse. Do you remember the memory verse? You know, the memory verse is what? Ephesians 4:25. Do you remember that? Ephesians 4:25. Googly, Ephesians 4:25 says that we're all part of the same family. Did you know that? Yeah, I'm part of the same family as Googly. Are you part of the same family as Googly? I'm not sure about that. But it says that we're all part of the same family. So we are to stop lying and start telling each other the truth. That's the memory verse. So Googly, would you go over it one time with them? And then we can get on with our lesson. We can find out what all the fun stuff we're going to do today. So if you'll tell them the memory verse one time real nice and clear and loud so everybody can hear you. I didn't get that.
I didn't get it either.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell it one more time. And then maybe Kim, you can tell it one more time. And then Googly, we'll get on with the fun stuff. Because you are hard to understand. You have a problem with your tongue. You know what? Lots of times we all have problems with our tongues, but your tongue is just hard to understand. So here we go. It tells us, Ephesians 4:25, we're all part of the same family. So stop lying and start telling each other the truth. Simple as that. Do you know that, Kim?
I do.
Awesome. All right, Googly, do you know it? Do you know what the truth is? All right.
So do you want to say it with me, Googly? You want to say it with me? Okay. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Ephesians 4:25. We are all a part of the same body. So stop lying and tell each other the truth. Okay, great.
Okay.
I think he got it. George? Yes, great job. Give me high five. Okay, he doesn't have hands.
All right. Well, Googly, tell you what, we're going to put you back in the suitcase, and Miss Kim. Oh, Miss Kim has these masks. Have you been wearing a mask everywhere you go? Miss Kim brought in some masks today.
I brought some really cute masks. We have the very girly kind that you can put over your mask or over your mouth to protect yourself. And then I have kind of the plain and simple ones that you, again, the same concept, it's to protect you. So you put it over your mouth. And then Pastor Roy has a super cute one with Mickey Mouse, of course. Who knew Pastor Roy would have a Mickey Mouse mask? Everybody. And then Mr. Googly has a mask. It's funny though, it doesn't sound any different. It doesn't. Okay. Pastor Roy and I are gonna kind of talk, and Googly is just gonna kind of sit here and be our model of what it's like for a mask. We're gonna a little bit talk about the masks and the concept of what masks do right now in our world, and that is to protect the things that come in and to protect the things that go out. That's kind of right now what masks are doing. Protect us all, keep us all safe.
So if I'm wearing a mask and I go into Kroger and I cough, that mask holds back the droplets from my cough, and your mask
protects me from taking them in.
There you go.
So it protects going in and going out, kind of. So we're going to kind of recap all the things that Pastor Roy has been teaching us over the last 4 weeks in the being honest. And remember, Pastor Roy's thing has been be honest to yourself, be honest to others, but most importantly, be honest to God.
Absolutely.
And all three of those things go together. So originally in the first week you talked about Achan.
We talked about Achan and how God knew the truth about Achan, whether Achan told the truth or not.
Exactly. The story with Achan, remember, is God knew the truth. God knew that when he was told, when all of the tribe was told, do not take anything out of the city, all the items are mine. Don't move on with anything. These are mine. Sometimes those shiny objects that you see, sometimes just too much, just too enticing. So Achan took something, hid it in his tent, thought no one knew. They went on to the next battle, and they lost, and they didn't understand. Well, ultimately what they found out is that somebody in the camp had lied. Somebody in the camp had not told the truth. And only when Achan was asked specifically, was this you? Did he admit that it was him?
Yeah, he lied about it until God said, I already know that it's you. And because he was caught, then he owned up to the truth.
The truth is God knows what's in our heart.
Yes.
Whether we want to admit it, or whether or not we put it out loud, or whether or not we have a mask that covers up all the ugliness that we don't want anybody to know about, God knows what's happening inside, even though we put a nice little mask over it. And that's what happened with Jacob and Esau as well. God knew the intent of Jacob. Jacob comes in with a bowl of stew. That doesn't seem like that scary or that deceitful, but God knew what was in Jacob's heart. God knew that he came in with the intent, the purpose of conning Esau out of his birthright with a bowl of soup. With a bowl of soup. Who knew soup had so much power? I don't even like soup. And then they did it again, but this time he had a helper.
Yeah, his mama, Rebecca, she decided that she wanted to lie too and got Jacob to lie with her.
Exactly. When they convinced their dad when he was in his last days, Jacob's mom says, go out, kill a sheep, bring it back. I'll make you a fur coat. Ooh, fur coats. Then he goes in and he lets his father rub on, because remember the way he would know the difference. One was hairy, one was not. Again, God knew Jacob's heart. God knew that he had no good thing in his heart and that he was going in with the intent and purpose of being deceitful and conning them out, conning Esau out of his birthright. Then, speaking of cons, we know the big one. Do you know the big one? That's right. I think I'm losing my mind. I'm beginning to understand him. Adam and Eve. Now, in this situation, Adam and Eve were not the ones that were doing the conning. They were the ones that were conned.
That's right. They got lied to by the father of all lies.
Exactly. When we talked about it that week, we talked about, you're going to interact with people and you're going to see people that aren't being truthful with you and aren't being honest with you. And you've got to know the truth. You've got to be able to tell the difference between what's right and what's wrong. You've got to be able to tell what's real and what's not. Like, if you remember me talking about it, You know that you're made exactly the way that God wanted you to be made. So when someone makes fun of you, like Googly, does anybody ever make fun of you? They do. But you know you were created exactly the way you're supposed to be, don't you? That's right. Well, sometimes we fall for those lies. When someone comes in and says, you know what? You're not exactly, there's something about you that's not right. And like I told you that day, you got to know the truth. You got to know that you were made exactly how God wanted you to be made. And you fight back those things. You fight back it. And again, remember what I said, live in the truth. You've got to know it in here before it comes out of here.
And you know how we know the truth? Because we have the Word of God in our heart. Jesus is the truth. It says that He is the way, the truth, and the life. And when we put God's Word, the truth, in our heart, then we'll know the truth.
Exactly. And then lastly, remember, sometimes, even if the object's not shiny, even if we're not doing the conning, or even if we're not being the one that's conned, you know what? We still know what's right and what's wrong. But sometimes, no matter how many times Mom and Dad tell you to do something, no matter how many times you've been told, if you do this, this is going to happen. Sometimes, even though we're told and we find ourselves in those situations, we still do it. And that's what happened with Peter. Jesus told him, you're going to deny me 3 times. And Peter said, no, I'm not. You would have thought when they asked him the first time and he felt like, oh no, what am I going to say? And he said no, he would have thought, wait a minute, I've heard this story before.
That sounds familiar.
But he, you know what, he still did it. He still did it. He still 3 times. And in the 3rd time, Pastor Roy talked about how he did it with anger.
That's right. It says that he cursed God. Now, I don't know what he said, but he got very angry and he cursed and he cried out and he said, I tell you, I don't know him. And just then, you know what happened? The rooster crowed. And that's when Peter realized what he had done. You know, sometimes we mess up and it's not an intentional mess up. Sometimes we just mess up and then as soon as we do it, we realize how big of a mistake we made. That's what Peter did. And he realized what it was. When the rooster crowed, he remembered what Jesus had told him. And it tells us that he ran outside the city. He was so sorrowful for what he did. And he says that he wept and wept because of the sorrowfulness. Because he had messed up. And sadly, we all mess up.
And I think, you know, I also think when we mess up, just like Peter did, just like Adam and Eve did, just like Jacob and Esau, just like Achan. When we God knows we're going to mess up.
That's right.
Because we're human. But just like with Peter, when he realized it, when he finally and realized that all the things that God had told him, or Christ had told him were going to happen, at that point his heart was broken. And God knows our heart. God does know. If you make a mistake, and you will make a mistake, won't you? You're going to make a mistake. We make mistakes. How many times have I made a mistake in this conversation? But God knows, and He knows our heart, and He knows when we're sorry. And it's just as simple as that.
And that's why Jesus came back to Peter, and we talked about that, how Jesus came back and had breakfast with Peter after he rose from the dead, and sitting there on the shore of the sea after they had caught the fish and they were eating the fish for breakfast. Jesus said, Peter, do you love me? How many times did he ask him that? 3 times. The same amount of times that he denied him. So Jesus was using that as a lesson to help Peter know that he was forgiven, that God loves us even though we do mess up. And in our mess ups, all we've got to do is love Him and trust Him and ask Him for forgiveness. And He's there every time. His grace and His mercy covers everything.
It seems like it's pretty simple. It seems like that's pretty simple, and it really, really is. So, just like with Mr. Googly, sometimes it would just be easier if we just walk around with masks, controlling this thing in our mouth that we're going to talk about. Yep, that thing. If we could just stick a mask over it, control it, wouldn't that be so much easier? But God knew. He knew that it took putting it in here, and He knew it took putting it in here to control. what came out of here. And then, as long as you put it here, and you put it here, then you don't need this. You can just be yourself. Know you're loved. Know you're forgiven. Know you're exactly what God knew you were gonna be. And just live there. Remember, be honest with yourself. Be honest with others. Most importantly, be honest with God. Because guess what? God knows it. Whether you admit it or not, He still knows. So, all right, Googly, thank you so much. Have a good night, day, morning.
So, you know, the mouth, the tongue, man, it gets us in trouble all the time, doesn't it? The tongue and the things we say get us in trouble all the time. When I was a kid, Miss Kim, I was known as a liar. I was. Because I would make up stories. And my dad said that they weren't just stories as in like once upon a time and a long, long time ago in a far, far away land. They were just lies. And I would just tell lies. And Dad called it, there it is, calling them whoppers. Has anybody ever asked you if you've told a whopper if that was just a big old whopper? Well, you know, think of whoppers. Whoppers are candy. Oh, I love whoppers. That chocolate. Take a whopper and put it in my mouth. I know
You gotta let it dissolve.
You let it. Oh, it just melts away. Oh, it's so good. I love whoppers.
You're making me want a Whopper.
You can have one of my whoppers here. So I love whoppers, but the whoppers my dad was talking about wasn't candy. It wasn't even a hamburger from Burger King. The whoppers, I would tell, were just bold-faced lies. And they weren't just little lies. Have you ever told just a little lie? You know, there's this thing that we call a little white lie. And a little white lie might be something that you tell someone to maybe not hurt their feelings. Have you ever went to dinner at someone's house and didn't really care for the food? You know, they make a big spread and they work real hard on it and they go, oh, isn't this delicious? And you're like, oh gosh, that was nasty. But you don't want to hurt their feelings, so you say, oh, one of the best meals I've ever had. The truth, it was a nasty meal. But you don't want to hurt their feelings, so you don't tell a whopper, tell a white lie. Christmas time is where white lies come in big time.
Oh, absolutely.
I didn't get you anything for Christmas. But in truth, you got the biggest, most expensive, coolest present ever for them. And you don't want them to think, you want them to be surprised. So you might tell a little white lie to cover it up. And then maybe there's some lies that aren't great big whoppers, but they're not those little white lies either. They're just, did you clean your room? Yeah, I cleaned my room. When you know you really didn't clean your room at all. Maybe you picked up the dirty shirt that was on top of your pillow and put it in the hamper, but the rest of the room is still a disaster.
Just stuffed everything in.
Just kind of, yeah, that's right. You kicked it up under the bed, swept it up under the carpet. So maybe it was a lie, but it wasn't a big old whopper of a lie. The Bible tells us in Mark 7:20 through 22, it tells us that all sin is sin. You know, have you ever thought about that? Is somebody that tells a lie, are they as bad as somebody that murders somebody? Maybe I tell a little lie, but Hitler, look at what Hitler did. You know, he tried to take over the world and he committed genocide and killed all those people. Maybe the person that told the little white lie, maybe their sin isn't as bad. You know, in human eyes, we might say that. But the truth is in God's eyes, God's sin is sin. I died for the person that told a lie, just like I died for Hitler. You think Hitler's in heaven? I don't know. Might be surprising who we might see in heaven. Because Christ died for everybody. He died for me, He died for you. He died for everyone. So if I ask for forgiveness, and maybe I was a serial killer, I killed boxes of cornflakes, I was a serial killer.
I was a frosted flake.
Okay. Maybe, you know, if I was a killer and I asked Jesus to forgive me, you know what? He forgives me. Did you know that there's a murderer in the Bible that we all look up to? His name's Paul. Paul killed Christians, but also he's known as a guy that he wrote more than half of the New Testament. He's one of the great apostles because he had an experience with Jesus. And God says that every sin is the same because I died for every sin. So we have little lives. We have maybe medium-sized lie or sin. Then we got those great big old whoppers. God says that a little lie and a big lie might as well be the same as a medium-sized lie or a medium-sized sin. So in God's eyes, they're all the same. There's no such thing as a little sin or a great big sin. God says, I died for all sin, no matter how big or small. And the Bible tells us that all of us have sinned. If I say I haven't sinned, then I'm lying to myself. All have sinned and fallen short of God's glory. We've all messed up. But the great news is that even though I'm a sinner, even though I've messed up, Jesus died for me in the place of me while I had sinned. He shows me his love, that while I'm a sinner and while I'm telling waters, he still died for me and he still loves me. So all I have to do is, just like Peter, realize the weight of my sin and realize that only Jesus can take that away.
You know, in the discussion of Peter, I'm sure that you talked about this when Pastor Roy gave the lesson on this. You wonder if Peter, in that process, who knew the truth, he'd been told, you're going to deny me 3 times. Do you think he ever realized as the words were coming out of his mouth, can I just put this back in?
Oh, get it back. Have you ever said something like that? It just came out of your mouth.
Exactly.
Come back, come back.
Did you do your homework last night? Yes. Knowing full good well you didn't. Did you clean your room? Yes. Did you take the puppy for a walk? Yes. Well, let me give you a secret. That puppy's going to tell you later whether or not you took him out.
That's right.
And Pastor Roy brought a tube of toothpaste. And it's kind of the same concept. I don't know if you've ever, I know you brush your teeth, but.
Hey, you know what, Miss Kim? One of the things I found out about these masks.
I found out I have bad breath.
That's same here. I found out what's coming out of my mouth sometimes isn't so clean after all.
No, it's pretty nasty sometimes.
That's why I think we might need some of that.
Are you telling me my breath stinks? I think that's what Pastor Roy's telling me.
I'm just saying, these masks, you said with that mask could protect us so that the bad things don't come out. I found with my mask, I found that bad stuff is coming out and I need to brush my teeth.
Yes, yes. Well, Pastor Roy brought a tube of toothpaste to show you, to kind of put the example of, if you squeeze out the toothpaste. Okay, so Pastor Roy, okay, I've put it out, so you put it back in.
Oh, that's funny.
No, put it back in.
You're funny. You can't put it back in.
Wait, well, it seems like that would be something that you could do, because you know, I didn't mean to. It was an accident. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. But you know what? Once the words have come out, you can't put them back. So, yeah, that's kind of where it is, man. And that's kind of the stuff that comes out of our mouth. Sometimes it just comes out. Sometimes it's ugly. Sometimes it's nasty. And boy, don't we wish we could put it right back in.
Yeah, there's been lots of times I've said something, and it may not just been a lie. It may have been something that was hurtful to somebody. Maybe I said, maybe meaning it in a teasing, funny way, and I said something that hurt somebody's feelings. And the instant I said it, I realized how insensitive I was. And man, I want to grab it back, but it's already out there.
It's already out there.
It's like Peter's denial of Jesus. It's already out there.
Can't put it back.
You can't put it back. So, to kind of wrap it all up, the Bible tells us, it tells us in Matthew 5:33-37, Jesus was talking to the disciples, and he was talking to some Pharisees and stuff, and he was telling them that they need to be careful what they say. And some of them were saying, well, I swear by God that I will do this, or I swear that I'll do that. And they began to swear on God's name that they would do something. And Jesus said, you shouldn't swear by God's name on it. You don't need to swear at all. And it's like, he's saying, look, you make a promise. Have you ever made a promise?
I make them all the time.
Make them all the time. Oh, I promise I'll do that. Today we were coming to church, and I said, hey, Kim, will you be at church? And she said, I promise I'll be there. And you know what? I never thought twice about whether she'll be there or not, because she said she would be. Jesus said, when you say yes, let it be yes. And when you say no, let it be no. You don't have to swear. You don't have to say, oh, I promise, or I have to do it because a double dog dared you. I let my yes be yes and my no be no. Let truth rule that tongue. Let's live in truth. Live in truth with ourselves, live in truth with others, and live in truth and honesty with God. Check out the downloads. We've got some fun things for you to do this week, and we'll see you next week right here, Grove Kids Children's Church. Bye, guys.